And we're live. So, welcome to Set Impact, where we discuss how emerging technology is changing sectors, society, and the world at large for a brief period for around about 6 weeks. I'll be speaking to some founders solving some of the hardest and most interesting problems over LinkedIn Live. This week, we've kind of done things differently. We're going to do a construction-specific week, construction tech, and today we have. Well, I think his internet's lagging right now. We have Stuart Maggs, the CEO of the Scaled Robotics. Let his internet load up right now before we go into a full-blown conversation. 1 second. Hey, Stuart, can you hear me? All right, the joys of being live. He'll jump back on in a bit. Okay. While he's trying to get connected, we'll kind of highlight some of the conversations that we're going to be having, and we've already had over construction week. My thought process behind doing a construction specific week was to, just kind of go deep, kind of do a deep dive into the construction sector. It's not a sector that I'm kind of familiar with, and it was an industry that I was quite fascinated with, just coming from a background and coming from a family that, are coming from a family that are predominantly in the construction sector. So, I mean, in terms of the companies that we're going to be covering, or we've covered, we'll kind of go through that right now. 1 second, I'll bring up my list. So the sentiment across a lot of the companies that we've been speaking to is the construction sector has traditionally been quite slow to adopt technology as opposed to other industry verticals. And we started off the week speaking to Dev Amratia, the CEO of Mplan. Mplan are basically a company that that use schedules to predict the future outcomes of future projects, making them way more efficient. But I think Stuart has finally come on right now. 1 second. There. Stuart, you need to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry about that.
No worries. So yeah, we'll go into Scaled Robotics. I mean, could you kind of highlight what you guys are doing at Scaled Robotics, and kind of highlight the problem that you're solving, really?
So essentially the problem that we're solving is that within the industry, we put a huge amount of time into BIM and VDC, preparing our projects. All the design stages is fantastic. And then when we actually come to site execution, it's a purely analog process. And as a result of that disconnection between kind of the digital world and the physical world, we have a huge amount of inefficiencies within the delivery of projects. So Scaled Robotics is really about producing tools for construction site managers to better organize, manage, and de-risk project delivery. And the way we do that is by delivering better information to make better decisions about their construction project. So we capture information on the construction site using a combination of different tools. We analyze it using AI and machine learning, computer vision in the cloud, and then we deliver that back to the client, not as raw data, but as actionable information that they can actually use to make better decisions.
That's interesting. I mean, in terms of the platform, I mean, actually, we'll touch on like your robot, because I mean, from my understanding, you guys have a robot and then you have the software platform. I mean, what does your self-driving robot capture? And could you kind of highlight a particular assignment and highlight the insights and the data that it captured and how that assisted a potential construction site manager?
So the robot is really there for high frequency data capture. This is to feed our data hungry software platform with data every single day to tell you about what's happening on your site. And it's composed of a little robot, which is driving around, which obviously has the autonomy, which means that you can kind of leave it on the floor and just let it drive around and capture that information on its own. And what it's capturing are basically 3-dimensional maps. So it's using laser and cameras to capture these 3-dimensional maps of the construction site, and then feed that information back into the software platform. And I'd really want to emphasize that everyone gets really excited about the robot, but really it is just a data capture platform. It's very cute and it's very exciting, but it's really there just to produce volumes of raw data. And a good example of what it managed to find, on the first day of operations, it drove around the construction site. It was a test. So it was, I think this was the ground floor of a building that had already had 2 floors built above it. And we found out that one of the structural walls on the bottom floor was actually 10-15 centimeters away from where it should have been. And the problem was that it was too close to the core in the center of the building, which means that all the MEP services was not going to fit, which means that if you had discovered this 5-6 months down the line when your technicians were coming and they were going to do your installations, they wouldn't have been able to do their job, and it was going to cost you at least 10,000 euros of extra work. So spending 5-10 minutes of letting the robot drive around, analyzing that data, you've already just saved 10,000 euros of direct cost just from that one issue. And there was definitely more than one issue on that ground floor.
I can imagine. Does your software platform work with other workflows and other existing lasers and scanners? I mean, is your software reliant upon your robot, or can it leverage different workflows and integrate into its own platform? Yeah.
So I think that kind of touches on maybe a bit of the philosophy of what we're trying to build here, that we don't want to be the be all and end all of, like, we don't want to be the core of everything that you're doing where everything has to run through us. Construction doesn't work that way. You have to integrate with other softwares, other existing tools, other workflows that people are comfortable with and have developed over years of experience. So we made a conscious decision to take as many data capture platforms as possible. And we've been working with a couple of terrestrial laser scanner manufacturers to make sure that we can integrate them in an even more streamlined way. So yeah, we can take terrestrial laser scan data as well.
I mean, in terms of the laser scanners themselves, I mean, I mean, I'm struggling to articulate my question, but at times your robots may not be suitable to scan a particular construction site. At that point, is it possible for an intern to just hold a laser and maybe a scan laser to just walk around a particular building site, capture the data, and then kind of feed it into your platform?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, really. It's about the right tool for the right job. So the robot was designed for high frequency data capture where, to be honest, we're sacrificing accuracy for speed. So we can do 10,000 square meters in around 40 or 50 minutes. That's fantastic. but you're losing the accuracy. So for some jobs, especially kind of in the structural stage, you need millimeter precise information. So a traditional, like a terrestrial laser scanner, to be honest, is a better tool to be able to accomplish that. And some projects are just so complex. There's just so much scaffolding or debris or clutter or water, for example. I mean, the robot's not going to drive through a half a meter of water on the floor. You just need different tools to be able to accomplish that. But all the robot is really there to do is to feed data into the software platform, because our clients are not paying for the robot. They're not paying for a laser scanner. They're paying for information. The information is what is delivering those gains.
And I mean, this is a bit of a funny question, but I mean, have construction workers just found it weird that there's a robot just roaming around, like whilst they're working? I mean, I can't imagine. I've been on a construction site before as a young lad with my father, and I can't imagine just a robot just strolling around. I mean, I would find it quite weird. I mean, was there did the construction workers have to kind of get used to the fact that there's a robot monitoring some of their work?
I think there's been a broad spectrum of reactions, from completely ignoring it because the internet has ruined all of us and nothing is unique and novel anymore, to there was one guy in London who followed us around, like literally every time he saw us, he would just follow us around with this big guy, bomb disposal, and just followed us around for like 10 minutes. And he thought it was hilarious. And after like 3 days, the joke had kind of lost its edge, but he was enjoying himself. So, and then there are other people that maybe on the first day they're excited, and you give them the controller, for example, and they're like super happy to drive it around. They're excited, and that's exactly what it should be as well. People should be excited about construction technology. This is really important. We've failed as an industry to bring in young, hungry, different skill sets, and technology like this is going to help recruit the next generation of people to work in our industry. So that was always a good thing. And then we do have video evidence of, we were on a site in Oslo and we left the robot like in a corner, like literally in a dark corner, but there was a GoPro at the back because we were taking some videos, and we left the GoPro on accidentally. And these 3 guys walked past and then just started screaming into the camera. It was one of the most bizarre bits of footage I've ever reviewed after.
I can imagine. Wow. I mean, the construction industry kind of loses out on, I mean, from my limited knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, probably around about $1 trillion annually because of the global, that's globally, that is. From my limited knowledge, also the margins are razor thin, ranging from 0.5 to 2%. I mean, could you kind of highlight? I think you touched on it at the beginning. I mean, what types of savings are you guys able to provide some of these providers? I know it's contextual and it differs based on the problems that you're able to identify, but could you kind of highlight different problems that you guys were able to identify, in different construction sites? Obviously, without going into detail and breaking your NDA, but yeah.
Don't want to embarrass anyone. But one thing that I would probably like to highlight is the value proposition that we have is really so much more than finding errors. I think they're the ones that everyone finds the most compelling or are the easiest to understand, because, of course, immediately on the first day, saving 10,000 euros on a wall, yeah, that's a big ticket item. Or you've run through all of the concrete work, and of the 60 holes, the reservations where you were going to put the future MEP, the fact that 30% of those are either missing or in the wrong place, that's going to cost you tens of thousands of euros in the next stage of work of just direct costs. But it's also going to impact on other things. Like, it's going to impact on your coordination. It's going to completely spiral out of control all of your planning. So using that as an example, the reservation, the wall is missing. I now need to bring someone that has to do emergency works. So probably that's going to take me an extra day while my subcontractor can no longer work in that area. I have health and safety constraints that I need to think about. That's going to cost me extra money, extra time. and then the quality of work is going to go down, then I'm going to have to add extra time to my subcontractor who's going to need more time to do the job, which is going to impact on other people's work. Materials are piling up in the corner. So it's really more, it's not the things that we find, it's the downstream effects into the actual workflows or how a construction site is being managed that really cause the most damage. And the fact that we don't have a good control over what is really happening on our sites means that in the planning stages, we have to add in padding to the budget, padding to the schedule to just make up for this uncertainty. So we've accepted that we just don't know a lot of stuff when we're managing a project. And we just kind of, by accepting that, we're internalizing into the process all this waste and inefficiency. But if you can introduce better information, better decisions at the right time, you can then make those plans based on actual work output, actual quality assessments, which is why we're doing more than just tracking quality. We're also tracking progress. So we can tell you objectively what is your percentage complete, and also what is the quality of that percentage complete, and where are the areas that are potentially lacking in progress or in productivity, and use that information to then maybe kind of delve a little bit deeper and figure out what is perhaps not working to the best of its capacity within your site.
This is incredible. I mean, the solution seems like a no-brainer. I mean, what percentage of large construction sites really use reality capture devices and nuanced data to evaluate certain aspects of their site? Were there construction-specific cultural barriers that you kind of had to, or natural inclinations of the construction sector that you kind of had to fight against, to introduce your technology? I mean, yeah, to me, it seems like a no-brainer because of all of the things. I mean, you can't have a surveyor measure every aspect of the site. It's just so inefficient. Were there any barriers? And also, what percentage of construction companies use reality capture now?
I think if we carry on this topic, we're going to run out of time. Reality capture is still, I think, an understood or underutilized technology within the industry. So we're prioritizing at this point companies that already have reality capture teams, because they understand the value proposition in advance, and we don't really have to do that much education, and they can very quickly understand what we're doing. But I would say that those companies are still in a minority within the industry. But then at the same time, let's say we're working on a project right now in Dubai, and it's an indoor roller coaster, and it's tens of thousands of unique elements, 50 meters tall, huge amount of steel, huge amount of scaffolding that's going around the steel, and they do laser scan the structure to verify it. But then you have a huge amount of manual work that goes into going through, like Navisworks, for example, cutting sections onto everything and trying to work out what's in and out of tolerance. Human error, totally inefficient. By the time you get that information, it's probably not useful anymore. And the value of that data degrades with every day that you're not using it to make a better decision. So just by coming in and processing the data that they were capturing with laser scanners already, we can turn it around within 24 hours, 48 hours. And for a project like that, deliver that value pretty much immediately. So for customers that already have sporadically because they weren't getting any value back from it, or minimal value. And then in terms of roadblocks to adoption, you're right, it does seem like a no-brainer. But then you have the reality that it's an industry that's quite fractured. Like you said, you've got small profit margins. People don't like to take risks. Maybe the biggest point to talk about is, even if you can prove on paper, look, on this project, in 1 month, we saved them 50,000 euros. They will turn around and say, okay, but that's their site. That's not my site. My site's perfect. There's not going to be any problems on my site. And the way that we overcome that is we say, okay, there's a trust barrier between a new piece of technology and the end customer. So we offer up generally free processing of data, just one free process. They can pick the area, they can pick the place on the site, capture it, we analyze it, and then we deliver that information back to them for free. And then you're building that trust with the customer so that they know they know that on their site, these are real issues that they need to overcome, and they can't just stick their head in the sand. And after that kind of first processing or that first conversation, it completely changes the way that the customer kind of looks at the solution.
That's incredible. We've had some comments on the LinkedIn Live. I think this is probably a friend of yours.
I don't know this Alexander guy. No idea who he is. No, he's great. He's fantastic.
And then we've got a question and a comment from Joy Kumar. He first asked, "Does it point cloud the drone actually creates the algos in the software platform deals with?" Okay, I'm not sure what that means. Okay, I think his second question which information does it deliver? I think he's kind of talking about. I think maybe he's talking about the robotics and your software platform. What types of information does it deliver to the end client? I mean, just out of curiosity, I mean, would you guys be using drones in the future?
I think in the future we're definitely going to be opening up to that. There's a couple of kind of new technologies coming through that are reducing the barriers to adoption just because they're so much cheaper. LiDAR is getting cheaper year in, year out. Every day you see something new that's lowering the bar. So yeah, I think eventually we will be using drones, but we are focusing primarily on the interior fit out of the building, and I think drones are kind of better suited for the exterior.
Yeah. I mean, that's quite fascinating. I mean, in terms of regulation, what are your thoughts? I mean, have there been any regulation that's kind of aided your company and kind of helped speed up the adoption of your technology, or has there been regulation that's kind of slowed you guys down? I mean, could you kind of highlight some of the regulatory barriers or the regulatory enforcers that have enabled you guys to speed up your adoption of your technology?
I think there are a couple of things. I mean, maybe the more obvious one now, it's not a regulation, but COVID has introduced a lot of constraints to how construction sites are working. And general contractors right now kind of have to kind of choose between the health and safety of their employees and the delivery of a project. And being able to monitor progress and quality in the way that we're doing now from the comfort of your own home is massively, the value of that is driven up massively by this crisis. It's kind of exposed a lot of the fault lines that we have within the industry. And I think it's kind of aided in the adoption of this technology because people have realized like we have a really clear-cut problem we need to solve, and we need to solve it today, not tomorrow. Our projects really need this today. And it's a forcing function. And then there have been other things that I think have really pushed us to the fore as well, especially in the UK, some of the reactions to the Grenfell fire, better documentation, verification of work is obviously super important. And I think it's slowly becoming more and more of a legal requirement. And it's those kinds of bits of regulation that have kind of forced general contractors or clients to pick up technology like this.
I mean, has there been any government mandates on like BIM? I mean, have there been any countries that have kind of mandated BIM adoption on construction sites? I mean, yeah.
So we actually, right now, the main markets that we focus on are the ones that have either mandated BIM or have a very strong policy of adoption or a trend of adoption. So right now we're working primarily in the UK, the Netherlands, Scandinavia, a little bit of Asia, the US, and a little bit of the Middle East. And I don't think we would be at the point where we are now without BIM adoption, because if you don't have good data, which is the BIM file, to measure against, then your results are going to be completely useless. So yeah, that's a huge driver of change within the industry. I think it's really a platform, not necessarily a technology, but a platform that allows others to build on top of it. Because if you have a good foundation of data, it means that you can do far more interesting or far more valuable things. If you were just working on 2D drawings, I think that really kind of sets the ceiling of what you're able to achieve on a project.
I mean, what I love about your technology is, I've seen some robotic applications in construction that make sense, but also don't make sense either. I've seen robots that are laying bricks, And for me, it's like these robots have purposely been invented to augment the human or get rid of the human, not to solve like a really big important problem in construction. I mean, I'm certain these bricks have been a certain size for a human to pick up and put onto a wall, and now you have
Yes.
these, and now you have these robots that are, building up these buildings. I mean, okay, you might get some marginal cost benefit, but yeah, to me, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, your technology makes a lot of sense because it's almost impossible to measure every single nuance of every part of the building. And using your technology, it kind of empowers the site manager. And it kind of empowers them to do their job better and kind of avoid problems, possibly even not get fired either. I mean, yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on innovation in the construction sector in general?
There are a lot of buzzwords being thrown around. I think now is the best time for innovation in the industry, but there's a lot of noise. And I kind of agree that it's interesting to lay bricks. It's kind of cool, but is this really the game changer in the industry? Like you said, bricks were designed for a specific size for a human being to be able to pick up and manipulate them. So if you have a robot which is infinitely stronger and more accurate in three-dimensional space, why are you constraining yourself to be a human? It's far more interesting to come up with construction methodologies which a human being is unable to achieve. And ironically, one of the experts on that topic was actually Alex, that just put that comment up, who did the Meshmore project at ETH Zurich. I urge everyone to check that project out. And I think that's one of the exceptions to that rule, that what they were building was just a human being was unable to create those structures. Only a robot could deliver the value of that three-dimensional formwork. And then kind of pivoting back to what we're doing at Scaled Robotics, we've learned, I think, from those projects, in the sense that a human being just cannot measure all of these things in a room. I'm looking at a column in the corner of the room, and I honestly couldn't tell you what dimensions it is to a centimeter. A human being is just not good at measuring distance, and we're not good at memorizing more than 3 things at a time. And our robot can go around and it's spitting out 640,000 points a second, capturing all that information, and then the software platform is analyzing literally millions of data points to be able to deliver an analysis that you would just, as a human being, never have access to. It would take a lifetime of work to analyze and capture that information.
Yeah. And maybe Elon Musk is brain technology, whatever he's trying to build.
Whatever's next.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of what are the technical underpinnings for the software developers and the engineers that write code for a living, what are the technical underpinnings of your software?
Maybe just to divert a little bit, I cannot speak more highly about our team, to be honest. We're a team of almost 20 people now, predominantly technical, and they have done an absolutely outstanding job to build this product in the time that they have and under the circumstances, especially recently. But predominantly our team is computer vision, machine learning, robotics, and then we have a front-end team as well that's building kind of stuff in JavaScript, and also our AWS stack at the background.
Yeah, that's amazing. And in an uber optimistic world, 24 months from now, what do you kind of hope to achieve from a product standpoint, and from a standpoint of being able to, what do you hope to kind of be able to deliver for your clients from a product standpoint?
That's a tough one. I think the product itself still needs to evolve. We still have work to do. We need to deliver that data faster, more efficiently, and we need to add more insight to what we're delivering. We're delivering something valuable, but I think we can go way further in the granularity of the information that we're delivering. And then I think we're only just seeing, every time we deliver a new feature, you only see the ramifications out on a project maybe 6 months later, because you have to have time to be able to aggregate all of that information to see those big gains. yeah, you can talk about those initial gains, like that wall that we spoke about. That's 10,000 euros on day one. But I'm far more interested in the aggregation of that information being used to increase the productivity. And at the end of the project, say we delivered this project on time and to the right quality, or even earlier than expected, because we used the information that you were providing to make better decisions and de-risk the project. So in 24 months, I want to see more projects that can prove that our technology has actually reduced their construction costs. And that will just take time to prove out. And we're doing it now, and we have some interesting case studies, but I'm quite excited to see what kind of case studies we're going to have in 24 months' time.
Amazing. I think Joy had another question here. Joy, he mentioned previously they're working on construction projects. In like, could you kind of highlight that point again? You're kind of, it's something that you guys are interested in, but you're currently focused on the interior of a construction site, right?
So I think there's a lot of companies that are doing the exterior and using drones to capture that information. But for the interior, you don't really want a drone flying around. It's not good for your fingers, and it's not good for your head. They're quite dangerous, to be honest. And the information that they're delivering is kind of low quality. And you have to kind of take a couple of steps back and say, what kind of problems am I trying to solve? And what are the best data capture methods to capture that information to be able to solve the problem? And drones are great for the outside, but they're not really so good for the interior of the building. I mean, you can kind of imagine how would they be flying through all these props and scaffolding poles within the building. So we're focused on the interior fit out, where I think the biggest value proposition is. But who knows, one day maybe we'll kind of move to the exterior at some point.
I mean, where are you guys as a company right now? You guys have gone through a tumultuous time during COVID with an office move. I mean, where are you guys right now? I mean, are you guys from a company standpoint, and then are you guys hiring? Are you guys fundraising? Talk to us.
So we raised 2 million euros in January, just before the crisis, which was quite nice.
Great timing.
Yeah, fantastic timing. Would never have predicted that. And then we were just about to kind of pull the trigger and bring our software kind of live to a larger audience. We were doing pilots before this, and we were already picking and choosing the companies that we were working with. And then we were kind of just about to expand that to kind of a larger ring of customers. And I was actually in the US just before COVID hit, talking to a couple of our new customers that we bring on board. And I got off my flight, I arrived back in the office, and then the next day we went into lockdown. So yeah, COVID was a bit of a challenge. But in short, we're bringing this product to market with a larger circle of customers. So we are looking for more projects to bring on board, especially within the UK, the Netherlands, Middle East, and US and Scandinavia. So if you're already doing reality capture, especially if you're already doing reality capture and you want to try out our software platform, please do send us a message on the website, and we'd be more than happy to talk to you about how we could integrate this into your workflows. And then hopefully, because we've built our team from 7 people to almost 20, we'll be raising another round of funding to expand our operations probably around January, February time in 2021.
And what would you hope that funding would enable you guys to do or facilitate?
So up until now, a lot of the funding has gone into still developing the product, and it's transitioning towards part of that money now going towards onboarding new clients, business development, not just product development, but also process development to make sure that we fit into our customers' workflows in a more streamlined way. And we'll be kind of probably putting still quite a significant amount of money into product development and making sure that we're delivering as much value to our clients as possible, solving those kind of everyday problems. But we're going to be transitioning into more of a sales organization, I think, early next year.
Amazing. I really appreciate you jumping on.
Pleasure.
We'll end the stream for now, but if you could stay on the stream so we can have a quick chat after, that'd be brilliant. Thank you so much for jumping on, and we're going to sign out now.